I'm Diane Macedo. Today on ABC News Live, more than 50 people are dead after a massive blizzard and record cold across the country. The urgent rescue efforts now underway and the new harrowing stories of survival. A holiday travel fiasco. Airlines have canceled thousands of flights, stranding passengers at airports. Why federal authorities are now launching an investigation into one major carrier as customers and flight crews demand answers. Plus, new fierce fighting as Ukrainian forces push to retake a key city. And the new diplomatic moves and fears of retaliation after an attack deep inside Russia. But we begin with that death toll rising from the brutal holiday storm, with 50 people now reported dead. The mayor's office in hard-hit Buffalo today announced 7 additional storm-related deaths there, raising the city's total to 27 people killed by this storm. Mona Kozar-Abdi is there.
The death toll in western New York rising after what officials are calling the blizzard of the century. A winter nightmare unfolding, roads still impassable, forklifts used to clear vehicles.
This blizzard is the one for the ages.
Wanda Brown Steele's daughter, among one of the victims, found dead in her car after the snow rapidly piled up.
It's so easy to ask yourself, why, God? Why?
Emergency responders in Buffalo fighting multiple house fires, leaving crews in a dangerous battle with both fire and ice. More than 50 inches of snow have fallen in Buffalo over the past 3 days. In many neighborhoods, residents now turning to one another for life-saving help.
I'm coming.
Buffalo resident Shakira Autry took to social media after she heard 64-year-old Joseph White in distress outside her home and brought him inside on Sunday.
I found him screaming for help. When I looked out the window, he was getting blowed up and down the street. It was out of control.
Autry updating social media in a second video.
All right, what vehicle am I getting? I'm going
taking White to the emergency room of Erie County Medical Center on Sunday with the help of strangers. And one mother with no electricity, desperate to keep her baby alive when his ventilator suddenly stopped. Speaking to our ABC station, WKBW.
I was sitting there literally crying, wishing someone would just knock on my door, literally. And, you know, if they said they knocked and no one was there, if they knew a mother and father and child were in there, they should have broke the door down. We were in there. We needed help.
Shahida Muhammad and her husband manually administered breaths to their infant for 2 days until Good Samaritans came to their aid. And elsewhere in the city, longtime residents opening up their homes to these visitors from half a world away after a knock on their door.
They said, we're part of a tour group from South Korea, and we have 10 people in our vehicle. And I said, get all of them inside our house right now.
And all day yesterday, we saw people returning to their cars, trying to dig them out of the snow, and Good Samaritans going around offering a helping hand. The airport is expected to reopen tomorrow. The airfield has been closed since Friday. Diane?
All right, stay warm, Mona. Thank you. And let's bring in Michael Schwartz from our Buffalo affiliate WKBW for more on this. Michael, thanks for being on. You know, the death toll in Buffalo is rising, and with more snow on the way, how's the city handling search and rescue efforts?
Well, good morning to you, Diane, and that's their priority right now is search and rescue efforts. The snow has actually stopped for the first time in days. This is day 5 of the blizzard, but for the first time in almost a week, we are not seeing any snowfall, and we are seeing visibility just about where it was on any given day if there wasn't snow on the ground. The reason why there's a travel ban still in Buffalo is not because of the roads that look like this. It's because of the roads that are still packed with snow. We were going through neighborhoods yesterday. The snow still up to my hip. No one can even leave their homes, and that's what first responders don't want. As they are first finding those paths, navigating through a city that doesn't look the same with all the snow in it, they need to make sure that they are able to deliver medications to people who are in dire need, delivering personnel staff, hospital staff to people to the emergency rooms for life-saving surgery. The priority right now is for first responders to be able to do their work because this storm, unfortunately, has truly been proven to be life or death.
Now, Michael, Buffalo is a city very used to snow. They know how to handle it. So why was this storm so deadly? Did it just catch people by surprise? What happened?
Yeah, and that's a question I still ask myself, Diane, and so many of us here, and everyone really is what happened. This is not the first time that it snowed like this, but what did happen is the consistency. If I was standing here and were to look down at those buildings there, those tan yellowish buildings, there would be no chance that I was able to see that on Saturday. It was the wind that blew snowdrifts, burying a substation that was buried in 18 feet of snow, according to Erie County officials. Yes, 18 feet of snow. The snow was so high, the whiteout conditions made it impossible for people to see, made it impossible for first responders to get to emergencies. For a time during this blizzard, there were no emergency services available. If that's not one of the scariest things ever for a growing big city, that says a lot about this storm. And the snow came down, the winds were high, and it was the power. I was seeing through my own home, the window, that the storm just continued. It truly looked like a fog machine that someone just left on for more than 48 hours. It wiped out this entire city. No one could drive. And the thing about it, the people that they're finding, the bodies in their cars, those are people that tried to drive. They were going to ride it out and may have even suffered carbon monoxide poisoning or truly froze to death, not being able to get out. This was not a pass of snow that went through an area in about 10 hours. This was a days-long event that truly froze everyone in its path, not even allowing first responders to get to it. That was the big thing, that first responders couldn't answer the call for help. A true feeling of helplessness for so many people here. But I tell you, right now is the catch-up day. A catch-up day that first responders are continuing to go throughout the city now that these roads are starting to get clear from the plows that have been working around the clock to try to get to those people who are in need.
And, Michael, we heard in Mona's piece some of those people who couldn't get the help that they needed, right? Parents manually breathing into their child, their baby's respirator, because they couldn't get that respirator turned on. How is the city now responding to that, to the fact that rescuers couldn't even get through this storm? And what are some of the stories you're hearing about neighbors helping neighbors, because that was the only option?
Well, the Buffalo is actually called the City of Good Neighbors. And for the first time, city officials, Erie County officials had to say, please, check on your neighbors, but don't go out of your way to try to help people because it is life-threatening. You see all the snow that is out here. Imagine this, but the entire street, you couldn't see pavement at all. The stories that I've been hearing, I actually spoke to that mother who was breathing breaths into her one-year-old son, Major, just to keep him alive. They didn't sleep for 48 hours. Their hands were tired. They were afraid if they slept that their son may not be alive. We've heard from people that are just delivering food to people wherever they can, checking in on elders. I just spoke to a woman down actually near the Tops on Jefferson Avenue, the tragic site of the May 14th deadly shooting here in Buffalo, the mass shooting. A woman came up to me crying. Her husband suffered a heart attack on Christmas Eve on Saturday. She called 911. No one could get to him. The neighbor, a nurse, came over, tried to save him. They couldn't do that either. He unfortunately passed away. She spent 2 days in her own home with her husband's body. They were just able to take away the body yesterday. This storm has been tragic in so many ways, and now, along with these plows that are out here, and they are happy to be out there, they're providing us some joy and some relief. You also have people on the streets trying to give their neighbors whatever they can get.
Yeah, it will certainly take a lot of physical and I'm sure emotional recovery as well. Michael Schwartz from our Buffalo affiliate, WKBW. Michael, thank you. Stay warm. And all that rough weather is leading to unprecedented chaos at U.S. airports. Nearly 3,000 flights have been canceled already today after about 4,000 were canceled yesterday. Now, Southwest accounted for over 70% of those cancellations. Now the Department of Transportation is investigating as the airline warns of more flight disruptions to come. Alex Perez has the latest from Chicago's O'Hare Airport.
They said no one's getting on a flight, a Southwest flight, for 4 days, and they said we can't help you, go home.
Southwest Airlines melting down in the wake of the Christmas holiday.
Christmas was just ruined. This was the worst Christmas ever.
And the company has already canceled over 2,500 flights today, with more misery expected this week.
It's been catastrophic. It is simply a failure of Southwest management.
When asked about the collapse, a spokesperson for Southwest blaming the weather.
I think it's just the sheer size of the storm. It's just the fact that this one started west, swept east, and impacted almost every single one of our largest airports that put us in a position where we struggled to recover, and we struggled to get our flight crews and airplanes where they needed to be.
In a statement, the company vowing we'll work to make things right for those that we've let down. We recognize falling short and sincerely apologize. But federal officials are launching an investigation into the chaotic response. The Department of Transportation saying it is concerned by Southwest's unacceptable rates of cancellations and delays and reports of a lack of prompt customer service, adding it will investigate whether cancellations were controllable. The airline's own employees blaming the company for not being better prepared. Some Southwest flight crews are being left on hold for up to 10 hours while they wait for scheduling instructions. From weary travelers sleeping on airport floors to unclaimed luggage pileups, the harsh reality was everywhere.
Unfortunately, our next available seats for rebooking are on the 31st and beyond.
Loudspeakers warning flyers in Houston they shouldn't expect to get a flight out for at least 6 days. Others boarding crowded buses chartered by Southwest. One bus headed from Raleigh to Nashville, a 500-mile ride that will take more than 8 hours.
I definitely did not anticipate having to go from an hour-and-a-half flight to taking an 8-hour road trip.
And Diane, it's expected to take more than a week of playing catch-up before Southwest's flight schedule is finally back on track. Diane?
All right, Alex Perez, thank you. Coming up, President Biden is headed to a vacation getaway, where he's going and some of his biggest agenda items for the new year when we come back. Welcome back to ABC News Live. President Biden leaves today for his holiday family vacation in St. Croix. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court could announce a decision today on whether to let the Trump-era Title 42 policy expire, which restricted immigration because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our own Alex Perez is in St. Croix awaiting the president's arrival. Alex, not a bad assignment for you. Judging by the beautiful blue water behind you, seems like it'll be a nice trip for the Bidens as well. What can we expect from the president today?
Hey, Diane. Well, right now, nothing is on his schedule. He's expected to arrive just before 9 p.m. local time. But again, as you mentioned, this is a family vacation. Nothing on the schedule. A lot of my colleagues have pointed out the tough assignment of being here in St. Croix. I feel like that's going to be a theme from the folks back north over the next week or so. But right now, it's going to be pretty quiet. That's what we're expecting for now from the Bidens.
Alex, do you have any idea how cold it is here right now? We're just trying to live vicariously through you. Is all. You know?
Well, it's 82 here, so.
I mean, the shirt's unbuttoned, the sun is shining. You're really rubbing it in. How is this like a working trip for the president at all, or is he just sort of expected to kind of kick back and really focus on the family this week?
Well, we're expecting them to really kind of take this time as a vacation. But one of the things that we know that the White House has said, specifically a purpose of this trip, is the president is going to be talking with his family and deciding about his future in 2024, whether or not he is going to run. That's something we actually heard from White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain. He said that they're going to be talking about it. He expects there will be an announcement shortly after the holidays. According to Ron Klain, he says he expects the decision will be to do it. But again, that's something that the president is going to be discussing with his family, and we'll hear that later on.
Interesting. Regardless, he's got another 2 years ahead of him. So what's the top of his agenda for next year, Alex?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Diane, is, the composition of Congress now is decidedly different. And what does that mean for the Biden agenda going forward? Republicans having a slim majority now in the House, that certainly changes the dynamics for legislation and also, kind of tentpole issues that Democrats have really kind of been pushing.
Now, the Supreme Court could also announce a decision today on whether to let Title 42 expire. So what do we know about that? And is the president expected to weigh in from his vacation if that decision is announced?
Well, Diane, so the White House is hoping that SCOTUS will strike down this bid by 19 states to keep Title 42 in play. Republicans have said that, look, without Title 42, we're expecting a surge of migrants towards the border. Now, Democrats would combat that by saying, look, while we do expect to see a temporary disruption, they also say that authorities at the southern border have been arresting, detaining, and removing migrants at the border more times this past year than ever before in U.S. history, and that's with Title 42 in place. So that is their response to that. But as for whether or not we would hear from Biden on this, I think it's just something we'd have to kind of monitor. But it is possible.
All right, certainly keep an eye on that. Alex Perche in St. Croix. Enjoy that difficult assignment, Alex. We'll be praying for you that you don't, get too much sunburn or overheat or anything like that. We're very concerned.
Thank you, Diane.
And as we look back at 2022, 538 is taking an in-depth look at the impact of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, rescinding the constitutional right to an abortion. What has it meant for states that implemented bans, and what has it meant for states that didn't? 538 reporter Amelia Thompson-DeVoe has more.
One of the numbers that most define 2022 is 10,000. That's how many fewer legal abortions there were in just the first 2 months after Roe v. Wade was overturned. That number comes from WeCount, a research effort headed by the Society of Family Planning, which supports abortion rights. They found that in July and August, there were 22,000 fewer legal abortions, mostly driven by the 15 states where abortion was banned or severely limited. In some southern states, there was a 100% drop in the number of abortions. In the states where abortion wasn't banned, the number of legal abortions rose by 12,000. That suggests that a large number of women traveled across state lines to get an abortion in July and August. But according to the data, approximately 10,000 pregnant people didn't make the trip. That makes sense because traveling out of state for an abortion is expensive and time-consuming, and women who get abortions are disproportionately likely to be low income. What happened to the women who didn't travel? Well, some of them probably still got an abortion, just not at a clinic. One study found that a European telemedicine company that will ship abortion pills to places where abortion is illegal received thousands more requests in the wake of Dobbs. So at least some pregnant people in states where abortion is banned were taking matters into their own hands. But it's also very likely that some people simply stayed pregnant. We'll have a better sense of how many women fall into this category when we get next year's birth data. It's possible that we'll see tens of thousands of additional births in 2023 because of the new abortion bans. Because remember, this is just the data from the first 2 months after the ruling. The WeCount researchers estimated that if these trends hold, there could be at least 60,000 fewer abortions than there would have been otherwise in the 12 months after the Supreme Court ruling. If more states ban abortion in 2023, that number could be even higher.
Amelia Thompson-DeVoe, thanks for that. Coming up, Ukrainian forces are fighting to take back a key city in the east after a deadly attack on a Russian airbase. We have the latest on the fighting and new diplomatic efforts when we come back. Welcome back to ABC News Live. We have breaking news. The co-leader of the 2020 plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has just been sentenced to 16 years in prison. Adam Fox and co-defendant Barry Croft Jr. are both convicted of conspiracy charges. Croft is set to be sentenced on Wednesday. Ukrainian forces are fighting to take back a key city in the east after an attack on an airbase deep inside Russia killed 3 Russian service members. Meanwhile, Kyiv says it aims to hold a peace summit by the end of February. as Ukraine pushes for Russia to be removed as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. And a Maryland Navy veteran and his son are being hailed heroes after an amazing rescue story. The father and son kayaked into icy waters to help save a pilot whose small plane crashed in a lake. Morgan Norwood tells us what happened next.
I do have multiple civilians with kayaks. It's pretty iced out over here.
A heroic rescue.
The kayaks are actually pushing themselves across the ice.
A Maryland father and son leaping into action after they watched a small single-engine plane plummet into this frozen creek.
He was heading right for us.
The ice buildup on the water so thick that even police boats had trouble navigating.
You're pushing the whole ice flow, which is good. So just keep nice and slow.
But John, Jolene, and his son grabbed kayaks and shovels to chisel their way through the ice.
I'm like, an oar's not going to do it. I need a shovel.
They reached the downed Piper Cherokee just in time. Moments before it disappeared under the dangerously frigid waters, they spotted the pilot standing chest deep on the wing.
Get out of the water. Just get out of the water and just hold tight. And then I just pickaxed backwards and got my kayak back onto the ice, and he was out of the water.
A Department of Natural Resources crew was finally able to cut through the ice and reach them and bring the pilot back to shore. Officials say he is recovering in the hospital this morning.
Hypothermia can set in within minutes. Absolutely probably saved his life.
Our thanks to Morgan Norwood for that report. And record inflation apparently has not put a damper on holiday shopping. A new report says retail sales are up from last year, but now the post-Christmas return crush is on. ABC's Ariel Reshev has more on tips for returning your gifts.
'Tis the season for spending. Despite record inflation, retail sales surging this holiday, up more than 7% over last year. Consumers taking advantage as stores offer deep discounts.
You saw a lot of people save a lot during this lockdown period. So now they're spending that savings.
Online shopping growing too, up more than 10%. But with all that holiday gifting comes an inevitable onslaught of returns.
I'm exchanging a jacket. It was a size too small.
So we're exchanging
this one and this one. What have you
I already have it. The National Retail Federation expecting nearly 18% of holiday season gifts will go right back. That adds up to roughly $171 billion. And experts say you can get what you really want without turning into a Grinch by doing it discreetly.
It's definitely possible for consumers to return gifts without the sender knowing.
If you're returning to Amazon, look for your order ID, oftentimes on the packing slip. Select your return shipping option and make sure to opt for your refund on an Amazon gift card. For most holiday purchases, you'll have until January 31st.
When it comes to returning product at Amazon, it is very easy. However, other stores may not be so easy. They will require a gift receipt to return product. And if you don't have that gift receipt, they will want a credit card. And in that case, you would either have to call the person that gave you the gift or just be okay with store credit for that store.
For presents from other retailers, read the return policy fine print. Try to get those returns done in January and check if there's a shipping fee to send the gift back.
And remember, your receipt is going to be your golden ticket here. And some stores will not accept returns unless the merchandise is in its original packaging. So remember that, too. And if you don't have your receipt, the stores sometimes will only give you store credit or not accept that return at all. But there always is regifting, Diane. Not saying I did it.
Nothing wrong with a little regifting every now and then, right? Ariel Reshev, thank you. And thank you for joining us. I'm Diane Macedo. Do stay with us as ABC News Live continues with more news, context, and analysis.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.